All right, I want to do a quick video about slope. So when we start with slope, what slope is the steepness of our graph. So you might have heard, it's rise over run, because you're looking at 2 points. And you're kind of talking about, how far, like if we look at this graph down here, if we look from our first point of -1, 2, and we have our second point, 1, 4, our slope would be, how far are we going up and over to get from one point to the next. So how far, one way you can count it, you go how far we go up and over to get from -1, 2, and 1, 4. So there is a formula for this. So we, call it this rise over run. You'll also see that the formula is m equals y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. So m is the variable that we use for slope. Slope equals m. Now, in our first you have to kind of figure out what is y1 and y2. So if you label our points, so we have 1, 4, actually, let's do it the other way. -1, 2, and 1, 4. So that first point is going to be x1, y1. And then your second point is going to be x2, y2. So when we plug this into our formula, our y2 is the y of our second point. So it's going to be 4 in our case. The y1 is the y-coordinate of the first point, so in our case 2, over the x's. So we're just subtracting the x's. So the x2 is going to be 1. The x1 is going to be -1. So 4 minus 2, we know that's 2. 1 minus -1, this becomes 1 plus +1, which is 2. 2 divided by 2 is 1. That means we're going to go up 1 over 1 to get from one point to the next point. Let's look at this next example. So here are 2 points, are 1, 7, and 3, 6. So we can label those x1, y1, x2, y2. Now, if you look at the graph, what you can do, we're considering, our slope is rise over run. Before, our previous graph, as we read it from left to right, it was going up. So that meant we had a positive slope. But look at here, as we go from left to right, our line is going down. So it's going to have what we call a negative slope. So you can look at it here, our rise is going down. It's negative, right? So if we could look at it, we're going down 2, or sorry, actually down 1. Sorry, we're going from 7 to 6. It's kind of off here. Down 1 over 2 to get from 1 to 3. So it's kind of one way you can look at it, is you can count on the graph. Sometimes that's hard to do when you have the little Chromebooks. That's why, I like to sometimes write out the points and use our formula, which our slope formula is y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. So here I labeled my y1, I labeled my y2. It doesn't matter which point you label which, as long as you keep it consistent in the formula. So like, as long as, the second 3 and 6 are both the x2 and the y2. And in this case, the 1, 7 is both the x1 and the y1. So you have to just keep that consistent. So let's see, y2 minus y1. So y2 is 6, y1 is 7. x2 minus x1, x2 is 3, x1 is 1. 6 minus 7 is -1. 3 minus 1 is 2. So our slope is -1 over 2. All right, so there's some special properties with some special slopes. If we look at just kind of these pictures here, if we look at that first one in red, we see that as we read our graph from left to right, it's going up. So this is what a positive slope looks like. Now, if you look at the green one, As we go from left to right, we're going down. So this is where we have a negative slope. Now the one down here in purple is going to be just a straight horizontal line. Like, it's not really going up, it's not really going down. It's just straight across horizontally. This is what we call, it's a zero slope. So the slope would be 0 here. And if you look at our last one, we just have a straight up and down vertical line. So this is what we call an undefined slope, is when it's straight up and down and vertical. One thing to add, if you're solving it algebraically and we see that, let's say we had something, for example, like 7 over 0. We cannot divide by 0. That's where we get an undefined slope, is when, we put it in our slope formula. If our denominator is 0, our slope is undefined, and it's going to graph us a vertical line going up and down. Sometimes you have to find the slope between 2 points and you don't have the graph for them. Like, it just gives you the 2 points. So when I do these, I always label them. So let's make the first one x1, y1. Make the second one x2, y2. And you just put in your slope formula. y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. So our y2 is 18. Our y1 is negative 10, so 18 minus negative 10. And our y2 is 12. Our y1 is minus 14. Now, when we have minus and negative, go ahead and make that plus a positive. So 18 plus 10 becomes 28. 12 plus 14 becomes 26. Now, we don't like this because we need to reduce it, which, notice, they're both even, so you can reduce them both by 2. Let's see, 28 divided by 2 gives us 14. 26 divided by 2 gives us 13. So your slope, or m, would be 14 over 13.